But we are going to begin. Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Matt Reichert, and I'm the Director of Outreach and Engagement at GIA Publications. I'm awfully glad to have you with us today for this Friday conversation about this new initiative we're launching called the GIA Book Club. And I'm really pleased to be joined with my colleague, Sarah. Sarah, do you want to introduce yourself? Say hello.
Sure. I'm Sarah Wolf. I am the communications specialist with the Department of Outreach and Engagement, which basically means I'm a writer. And so a lot of the catalogs that you see, or if you subscribe to our email interlude, I take care of that each week as well. So I am very excited to start this book club. I know Matt and I, as you can see by his background there, are big book lovers. And so we want to share the best of what we have with you.
Yeah, that's great. Sarah's in her second tour of duty at GIA, and this there's all kinds of projects and things that we're working on, and I know this one in particular is really a labor of love. So we want to do a couple of things in this period of time that we have together, and we want to keep this as short and practical as possible. So if you have questions as time comes up, feel free to put them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen to all of you who are joining us. I want to start actually with a question that I'm hoping people can answer by putting information in the chat feature. And so as you're thinking about this, participants, if you could let us know during this time of being socially distant, and some of our those of you who have joined our parishes are reopening for public worship. I know some people are still closed or reclosing. I'm wondering if you'd be willing to share in the chat, what has your community or your school been doing to keep people connected? Have you been doing virtual rehearsals or virtual faith sharing groups? Have there been other ideas that you've had? So if you're comfortable with it, if you'd add those in the chat so that everyone else can see and share that wisdom, that'd be really helpful. As you're doing that, we'll talk a little bit about where this idea for the GIA Book Club came from and really what we're hoping it accomplishes. So Sarah, I'm wondering maybe if you would be willing to speak to that first question to kind of kick things off. What is this thing? Where did it come from? Why are we doing this book club idea?
Well, if any of you have been following some of the things that we've been doing on our website and some of the things that have been coming out in our emails, we are really trying to help you and help ourselves get our materials out there in a digital way, help you use them remotely, and really stay connected with your choirs, with other groups that you meet with. And so this one kind of almost came by accident, but we were talking about various books. We had a couple of new books just come out recently by both Alice Parker and Don Salyers, who are very well known. And we thought, you know what, this is a way to stay connected. It's a way to talk about music, even if we can't sing it together. And honestly, these are some really good books to read. And so we wanted to make it as easy as possible for you to use these books for a little fellowship and a little formation. And hopefully we've come up with a good start, and hopefully you can help us make it even better.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great way to summarize this. I mean, essentially, the book club idea is exactly that. I mean, I think both you and I, Sarah, have been parts of separate book clubs at different points in our lives, and we know how useful those conversations can be, and also how accessible a book club type meeting can be at a time when so many other things are inaccessible. As you mentioned, there's not a lot of music making in close proximity, at least not with our full choirs for many of us, depending on where you are and what your local or diocesan regulations are. And we're kind of trying to, at least the way I am thinking about this, is under the banner of never waste a crisis. You know, there are some things as sad and awful as many of the realities we face right now, especially in our faith communities are. What are the things that I can do now that I couldn't necessarily do before? You know, all of those those times when I thought it'd be great to get my cantors together to talk about the ministry of cantor, or it'd be great to get our choir together to do some deeper dive into, Lectio for the readings, or some more liturgical catechesis, or a question, talking about the ministry of pastoral music. But then, of course, we just never have the time. We're so busy in our rehearsals and our lives. Is there an opportunity here for that now? So what we've structured is a resource that we hope will be as accessible to all of you as possible. It's free. And I mentioned that at the beginning because I'm hoping to say that about 10 more times, because that's the important piece of information here. It's free. It's something that we're excited about being able to be tailored for virtual gatherings or in-person gatherings or hybrid gatherings, depending on how people function or their comfort level. We want this to be as accessible as possible. This is also something that can be done with cantors, choirs, parish staff, deaneries, NPM chapters, family, friends, neighborhoods, you name it. It's really something that can hopefully meet any group or groups that you're a part of, wherever they are. So what we'll do right now, Sarah, if you're okay with it, is let's go through the order of what the book club looks like and what these resources are that we put together look like. And then we can talk a little bit more about how that might function. Participants, as you're listening to us, if you have questions or suggestions about questions about how this might look in your community, questions about how might we approach this depending on the groups you're thinking about, please put it in that Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, and we'll do our best to answer as many of those questions as possible. So I'm going to share my screen right now, participants. I know some of you are joining on the phone, and so you won't be able to see this, but we'll do our best to talk you through some of these specifics so you can find this when you're back at your computer. So this is the webpage for Interlude. And as Sarah mentioned before, this is our weekly digest. You can get this in your email inbox. You can find it on our website, with a variety of helpful tidbits, news, resources, things that are going on in pastoral ministry and just at GIA and WLP. And so if you go to interlude.giamusic.com, you'll find all of the wonderful things that happen in Interlude. And right at the top is where you will see the link for GIA Book Club. So I'm going to click on that. And this is the main portal for everything book club. Sarah, do you want to talk a little bit maybe about the schedule and how titles and these resources and things will come out for people, how they'll interact with this page?
Sure. So right now our first book is up, as are all of the free downloads that come with it. So there's an explanation of the book here, and then if you keep scrolling, you'll see all of the free resources that we have for you. And we'll go through all this, but we have a facilitator's guide. Somebody's got to be in charge, right? And plan this thing. And then we have a guide that each participant can download and use as they read through the book. And then we have slides that are pre-made for you so that when you share, if you're on Zoom, you can pull these up on your computer and share your screen so everybody can kind of stay focused on the same thing. Now, here's the best part, is that it's not like if you don't get to this beautiful book in October that it all goes away. We're not doing that to you, all right? Because sometimes it just takes a while, or you might not want to start until after the new year. Maybe everybody's busy right now. However you want to do it. Matt, if you can scroll down just a little bit more, a little bit more. Right there where it says previous book club picks. Down below there, right now it's just a skinny line because there's nothing there yet. But as we add more books, the previous ones will have a link down below, and it will open to the previous pages with all the downloads still available. And so even if we move on, you can go back and look for another book. Maybe you just didn't get to that one, or you didn't feel it was the right time for that, or you just weren't ready to start. So they will all be available whenever you're ready for them. So we have one for October, National Book Month. It's a great month to kick it off. And then we have another one planned for kind of November, December. We'll put all of the things that go along with it, all the downloads, up in November. And then you can, we just figured you use it over the Advent season if you're following along with our schedule. If not, you can hold off and use it whenever. And then once the new year starts, we plan on releasing 3 at a time for sort of that quarter, so that you can really plan ahead, and people can get the books in their hands and really have time to absorb them before you start meeting. So that first group that we will release will really kind of be focused in on Lent.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So a couple of things that I at least for me, I like about the structure that you put together, Sarah, and the way that this is happening is that, again, we're providing these resources, but they're there. And so, for some communities, the Gift of Song might be a perfect book to start. I mean, we're going to be approaching in November the Feast of Saint Cecilia. Of course, we're all thinking about the importance of music, especially at a time when we can't necessarily make music in the full way we normally would this time of year. This is around the time our choir seasons would be kicking off, that sort of thing. But this also might be a wonderful thing to circle back to. Or, of course, we all know we like to read the same books sometimes more than once. So this is going to be available later if someone misses the book club. But also, like, we hope that this is a discipline or an offering or a practice that you can introduce into your community. This type of community, this type of lifelong learning, focusing on this book journey together. If any of you have been a part of a book club, you know that oftentimes it's far more than just, analyzing a text. It really is a different group of people that are bound together in an intentional community. We want this to become a practice that becomes, that outlasts COVID. Certainly it's a thing we can do now when we can't do other things. But when we can go back to other things, we hope that this is something that your community will stay with. So we have a commitment to keep stocking the shelf here with other resources and making them available longer term. So I'm
So
going to scroll. Oh, go ahead, Sarah. Sorry.
the other thing I just wanted to mention too is that as we change books, we're going to try and give you a nice variety.
Mhm.
This first one, because it kind of comes up fast, if you wanted to get started right away, it's a pretty small book.
Mhm.
It really is jam-packed with beautiful ideas. She is an amazing thinker. It's beautifully thought out essays, but it's not long. And so it gives you less time reading, more time thinking, but it's really a great book to just dive right in, because it might just take you a couple days to get through it. Whereas later on, we'll give you some choices that are a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, so that you can kind of tailor that to how much time you have, how much time your participants have. And we will, I don't want to say that this is an easy book to read, meaning like it's just fluff. It is beautiful and deep, but it's very short.
Yeah.
And so again, there'll be a wide variety of things to choose from.
Yeah, absolutely. So regardless of the book title that we have, and again, I'm glad you mentioned that, Sarah, just our commitment to a variety of experiences and topics, because that certainly is at the forefront of our mind when we're planning. For all of the books and the titles that we choose, these are the types of resources you can expect. So I'm going to show you the Facilitator's Guide, Participant Guide, meeting slides for our first book selection, The Gift of Song. But this is the type of thing you can expect for the future titles as well. So I'm going to click on the Facilitator's Guide. And again, all of these guides are there just free for the taking. Go ahead and download them, use them. We hope that they're helpful and they're useful. What we're trying to do with this Facilitator's Guide is to lower the barrier to entry to something like this. These are completely customizable. You can use them. You can use them and go beyond them. You can do your own thing, but we want to at least equip people with what you need to get off the ground, to just start doing. So you'll notice in this Facilitator's Planning Pack, there's a variety of things that we have included, right? So first of all, reasons to start your book club, which can be useful not only for convincing your parish staff why you should do this, but also helping to recruit members for that book club. I know I'm going through this kind of quick, but again, you can feel free to download this and look through this later. Meeting virtually, again, how do you do this virtually? What are some best practices to use? This is especially helpful if you're not familiar with some of these digital meeting platforms, or if the way you've used this has been more, again, meetings, information delivery, as opposed to discussion. This can be a helpful set of best practices for you to use for book clubs and for other things too. Um, Planning checklists. Again, you know your community, you know the group you're going to use this for, but what are some general things you might want to be thinking about so you don't look past it or get stuck because there wasn't something that you anticipated? So again, a few weeks before, 1 week before, the day before, the day of, what are some things that you might want to be thinking about? Or if you're in a parish, I mean, I know I see some of you, are at a diocesan level, or you're coordinating a staff at a parish level. This could be something where different groups in your parish are all reading the same book, but you're meeting in those groups. Your Sunday morning choir might be getting together, and also your parish staff might be getting together, and maybe the women's group or the men's group are getting together all separately, but reading the same book. Well, this is also a checklist for you, coordinating the facilitators to make sure everyone's on the same page, or to do a training even, if you wanted to. So again, customizable, scalable. And then options for purchasing the book, because some communities might want to just have everyone buy it on their own. Some people might want to buy a box of these and distribute them, or resell them, and we'll talk about some options and some incentives for that later. But again, some things to think about. Again, contact information. I know I'm scrolling fast here. Um, the next, couple of pages really get into the meat and potatoes of what the book club experience looks like. And Sarah, I mean, as the author of these things, maybe you want to talk a little bit about the agenda and then the questions, how you see them work and how people might interact with these.
Sure. So I think the most important thing to remember is to have an agenda. Whether you use the one I came up with or not, I based mine on about an hour-long discussion. You can make it longer, or I don't know if I'd go shorter, but definitely you could make it longer. I think the main thing to keep in mind as you follow this agenda, or if you adjust it to make your own, is to make sure that you have something in place that makes sure that everyone is able to be heard. If you want people to keep coming back to your book club, no one person should be dominating the conversation. It's just a good reminder. But having an agenda and keeping people to time, I think we've seen in some recent debates, staying to time is important. So, not cutting people off necessarily, but just gently reminding everyone that we want to give everybody a chance to share what's going on. I think it's also important to put in time to let people share their news. Somebody got married, somebody's sick, somebody had a baby, because all of those things are going to kind of go on in the background if you don't get it out there. Now, the way I've structured this is I kind of gave you 3 groups of questions to fill in the time of your book club. By absolutely no means should you be using all of these questions for one book club. You would be there for 5 days. No joke. There are a lot of questions. But I wanted you to be able to kind of look, and your group best. Especially with a book like The Gift of Song, if you're working with your choir, you can really focus those questions more at a musical level. But there's also very much to talk about in this book about congregational song, about creative energy, about art. And so, there's all different kinds of things. So back to having everyone be heard, these sample book club expectations are there, and just gently go over them with people so that they remember, and set up a thing that maybe everybody's on mute until you want to talk, so that you're not getting a lot of background noise and that kind of thing. If you're not used to Zoom, or you don't have kids who are e-learning, some of these things aren't natural. But again, I put them in there so that they can just kind of fuel your thoughts of how you want this to run. So back to the questions, there are 3 types. There are your total basic book club questions. What's your favorite part? What's your least favorite part? Would you recommend the book? Did you form any opinions or change any opinions reading it? They're all very generic, and they could apply to any book you read. And really, they're going to, because those questions are going to come back every time we have a book. Then we have a big chunk of questions that are very specific to the book that we chose. And those, of course, will change every time you download a new facilitator pack. They usually have the page number next to it, so that while you're discussing, you can say, you know, everybody turn to page 7 if you need to remind yourself of what you know, of what it said on that page. This also coordinates directly with the participants guide. All of these same questions appear there, so that they, the people, as they're reading, they can make notes and refer back to their notes while they're discussing, so nobody has to reread the whole book while they're talking. So there's a ton of those questions, and it kind of works its way through the book. And again, there's no way you're going to use all of them. So, you know, that's the bonus of being the facilitator. You get to pick. You get to pick what you think would be interesting to your group and interesting to you. And then there's a few questions at the very end that are just for wrapping up. You know, was this a good experience? How would we change this? You know, are you interested in coming back next time? And that kind of thing. I will say this, anything that is in this facilitator guide or the participants guide or the slides, you know, is the brainchild right now of Matt and myself. So we need, you know, if you have a suggestion of something that you would love to have in there, or, you know, could you change this so it looks this way instead, or I have room to do this, you can email me at interlude@giamusic.com. And boy, I'm open to anything you have to, that we can discuss to make this an even better experience for you. So that's kind of what's in the facilitator guide.
I just put that email address that you mentioned, Sarah, into the chat, so those of you who are watching can see that. And also there's contact information, obviously, on the webpage and in the facilitators guide for more of that. One of the things that you should know, participants, about both Sarah and myself is that our primary training is as teachers.
Yeah.
And so this was also a great way for us to bring in that other vocational part of what we do into this in a way. And I think, you know, I'm gonna put up the participant guide next. One of the things that I appreciate, Sarah, about the way that you've put this together, especially with the questions and the structure, is that, again, we're trying to make this as accessible to people as possible, both in terms of how you meet, virtually or not, in terms of how people process or prepare. Some people can just go in and start talking and are fine with that. Some people like to see the questions and journal or reflect. But also, how do we make sure this lands, this experience of reading the book and of being together in a common shared enterprise of reading a book? How does this land and make a difference for us individually, for that group within the community, that community within your area or the church? And so the fact that there's a so what to all of this, or the fact that there is a real opportunity for that efficacy of, you know, we read the gift of song together and we read the chapter on listening and answering. We have a conversation about what that means in October or November of 2020. What a callback that is in our rehearsals in March. What a callback that is when we go back and reread it. Or there's just so many ways for us to use this to extend that learning and to extend the depth of that relationship. That I know that's a geeky thing, but that's really exciting to me as a pastor musician and as an educator, that we have that opportunity to take things to that different level. So I'm going to scroll through the participant guide here quickly.
It's also the way that we choose the books.
Exactly.
You know, is there something in that book that is able to be taken beyond just reading it, just having one session?
Yeah. Absolutely. So some of the things that are in the participant guide that, are unique, but also harken back to what you see in the facilitator guide. Certainly the author biography, it's helpful to know something about the person whom you're reading, the perspective that you are going to be engaging with, that conversation that you're going to be having. I mean, really the author is the only person not in the room or not on the Zoom necessarily. And so it's helpful to know that. Background information that we feel would be helpful for you to know, because Alice refers to the sings. So what is that? So you know that ahead of time if you're not familiar with Alice Parker or her works. Again, space for people to collect their thoughts. This is so helpful, knowing we're trying to be as inclusive as possible here, and also as differentiated as possible in terms of people's reading and learning and processing styles. Those of you who are educators will be familiar with that, which is, again, people can interact with us however they want to, but really a reading journal for the participants. And the way I think about this is sometimes I myself don't process at the beginning with this journal, but I really find it helpful to sort of record or document the thoughts that will stick with me even after the conversation, to then tuck this into, maybe not this book is pretty small, but to tuck it inside the cover. So when I pull that book off my shelf again, I can see, oh, that's right. I see what October 2020 Matt said about, are there hymns or folk songs that take me right back to my childhood? And maybe when I pull this book off my shelf in a year, 5 years, 20 years, how is that different? I like any of that sort of time capsule nature. So again, these are the questions from the facilitator guide with space for people to process. I'm going to scroll through here. Anything else about the participant guide in particular, Sarah, that you want to emphasize or point out?
I don't think so. I just, there is space at the very end, again, for notes during the actual meeting, so that, especially on Zoom, it's hard with everyone muted. And I mean, look at me, I was talking over you, and it's kind of hard for everybody to hear. So while you're listening to somebody else to talk, I wanted to make sure that there was a spot to be able to say, oh, I want to remember, I want to say this. Or, oh my gosh, what that person just said is something I want to take with me when this is all done. And so, again, a lot of that goes to, like you said, Matt, just different styles of learning. And some people are big note takers, some people are little note takers, some people will not need or want that at all. Except to say that it might be handy to know what some of those possible questions are before you go to the meeting.
No, that makes sense. And I do think, for example, for this participant guide, and I'm not going to scroll through and make everybody motion sick again, but to your point, Sarah, you really have equipped us with a huge amount of information to consider, which is awesome. And one of the things we didn't mention is, of course, any of these meetings, this could be one book club meeting that you're able to schedule with the expectation that we've read all of this. This could be let's read it in halves or thirds, or who knows. You have to kind of feel that out for the book and your group, what you're comfortable with. But I can imagine in my community using this to say, here are all of the questions in the participant guide, and we want to talk for sure about these 5. Look at them all for yourself or come back to them afterwards, but for sure these 5 to kind of seed the conversation, especially for people who might want to process ahead of time. But know that individually, or other people who get together see each other extending the conversation, you might be able to go back to some of those other questions and conversations as well. Sarah, do you want to say anything about, as you, obviously it's going to depend on the book and again the community, but how you would think about structuring the frequency of these meetings?
It depends again on what you said about how you want to read the book. This particular book is, again, very short, but it is very jam-packed with a lot of thoughts. So I could easily see breaking it into 2 sections. And then, if you're a choir and you normally met weekly, maybe you meet weekly. And if you do that, though, I would definitely break it apart chapter by chapter. And those middle section questions are done in order with page number references, so that you can kind of break those apart and know where you can cut them off.
Right.
based on what people have read for that particular session. If you're going for the whole book, I would definitely spread them out month to month, or even season to season if you feel
Mhm.
like people can't really commit to that much time, which is one of the reasons that we were only going to do one book for November, December. Christmas and Advent in church, whether you're virtual or in person, is always extremely busy. So, um, just take it. It should never, to me, it should never be a burden. It should be a time that people enjoy. And so, that also might be something that you put out there, and you kind of try to say, hey, we're going to start out every other week. But if we see our numbers dwindling, maybe we'll go to once a month.
Mhm. And I think, we've mentioned this a variety of times. I mean, part of this conversation is to talk specifically about this book club, but also introduce the book club concept in general. So, we've said a number of times it depends on the book, obviously. For this book in particular, because it is, it's pretty pithy, but there's a lot of depth to it. I could see this even forming the basis of sort of a year-long music ministers retreat of sorts, either reading the whole thing multiple times, 3 times throughout the year, going back to the text or dividing it up, even just going back to a particular chapter or reflection. I mean, really, these are less chapters, more personal reflections or essays. So going back to that, I could see. This also is a book that I think has a lot of accessibility and would have a lot of appeal to the non-musicians, the non-music ministers, I should say, in your communities, because we're all grieving the loss of music making, however we participate in that. That the gift of song really, you don't have to be an accompanist or a cantor or an alto or a flute player in order to enjoy this book or to get something out of it. This really can go beyond. And that's another reason why we've selected this book, is because we do want this to have as broad of an appeal as possible. A couple of things in the minutes that we have. Again, if you have a particular question, participants who are joining us, about how this might work that you'd like us to address, you can put that in the Q&A feature or the chat feature. I do want to show you again on this interlude page, I'm back on the book club section, the meeting and PowerPoint slides. I'm going to open this. And you'll see you'll be taken to 2 different formats, both Google Slides and also PowerPoint, which is helpful. And these, again, are meant either in person or virtually. And I know there's a question in the chat about how do you share slides if you're using a Zoom or a Skype or something like that. There's a feature at the bottom of the screen when you're in a meeting or a webinar called share my screen. And so having these slides up allows you to, just like I am for you now, to put these in front of everyone who's on the call, which is a helpful way not only to provide that information, but frankly, it's a helpful way for crowd control. So to help people, sort of what are we focusing on now? How are we moving along to the next thing, etc. But you'll see, Sarah, I mean, what you've done right here is to put in that agenda, which all of these, again, download them, change them, customize them. You're going to do multiple sessions. You want to take out the break, extend the break, do what you got to do. Reminder of expectations at the beginning of the club. Again, general discussion questions. You can take these out. You can shuffle them around. You can add your own. Everything is here. The general discussion questions. And again, forgive the motion sickness. The specific questions by page, everything again is there for you to be able to tailor and customize. So again, what we've tried to do is remove all of the things that might crop up if you say a book club is a great idea for my parish, but fill in the blank. We've tried to remove as many things that you can put in that blank as possible. Again, this is our first foray here with this particular book. If you think of other things that might be helpful for future books, please let us know. That being said, and I'm sorry, I'm going to share my screen one more time. Sarah, let's talk a little bit about another barrier that we haven't talked about, which is ordering and cost.
Oh, right.
So we mentioned that this is free, and that's true. This is completely free. The Facilitator's Guide, the Participant's Guide, the PowerPoint slides, download them, use them, share them with our compliments. The only thing that needs to be purchased is the book itself. And so Sarah, if you'd say something about the options that we have presented here, that'd be great.
Sure, of course, one of the obvious options is to have each participant buy their own book.
Mhm.
They are available right now. This particular book is available at giamusic.com. There are links on that page that Matt has up right now. There are links in the email. There will be links forevermore in every interlude, right? But we will guide you there. There is a link there on the page that you can share with your participants if they want to order their own book. Um, you need to, right now, that particular book, because it's very new, is not available on Amazon or any other online shop. You would have to purchase it through GIA. It is an inexpensive book, which is also a bonus for a starter book. Um, so you could do that. Just keep in mind that you need to give people enough time to order it, to have it delivered, and then to read it. So you're planning a little bit further out that way. Um, Probably the way I would think would be the best way to do it is to have one person purchase all the books. When you do that, we're offering a 10% discount. There's a promo code there, gift of song, when you purchase 10 copies or more. Again, it is not a very expensive book, so bonus all the way around. But we are offering that just during this month. When this is the particular book, we will offer a discount on the book of that is the book of the month or the book of the season during that particular month or season. And but we would encourage this. Then you have some options from there. Because we're giving you a little bit of a discount, you can either sell them at a discount to the people who are in your group and have them pay for it. And just everybody shares in that discount. You can make it just a tiny bit of a fundraiser. It wouldn't be a ton, but might buy you a little bit of music for your choir or something. In that you buy the books at the 10% discount and then resell them at the regular sales price, which is just a little bit more. And then, of course, it may be that your church or your choir or your group or whatever, because you're not spending money on other things right now, maybe you just want to gift these books to the participants that are willing to be part of the book club. And so, again, this is, I think it's explained well there. If it is not, always, you can email me and I will walk you through anything that you need. And sometimes, it's easier to ask me those questions and then guide you through customer service than just go through customer service.
Yeah, I mean, so again, I mean, we're trying to lower one more barrier to entry by offering that discount. Also, the way I think about this, if I want to facilitate this with my choir, if I'm the music director and I buy 11 copies, that 11th one is going to be free for, if my participants buy them, or even depending on the size of group. I mean, a smaller group, especially if you're doing a virtual discussion, might be better. This could easily be something where, we buy this set, and because the facilitator's guide is evergreen and free, I mean, it could be something depending on, I know some of you are parish librarians, or, maybe it's in your diocesan resource office, having a set that you can loan out or reuse more than one time. Maybe I don't keep my physical copy that the parish bought, but return it and we can use it again in our formation programs. There's a variety of ways to use that.
And there are some great ideas too, just, with all my kids going back and forth to school and doing pickup and of materials and that kind of thing, to our local library has all of the books that people have ordered in paper bags with their names on them sitting in the front of the thing. So you just have to step in, get the paper bag with your name on it and take it home. So there are, if you're in a hot spot and you need a contactless way to get those books to people, I'm full of ideas. So let me know.
and this is going to be more appropriate for a post-COVID book club meeting, but I also think, the gift of song full price is $8.50. If this was my community, I would, buy them. I would charge everyone who's in the book club 10, because $10, I mean, again, you might have to scholarship some or whatever. I don't want to be glib about it, but with the discount and the extra $1.50 to provide the snacks, or to provide some sort of other, way to celebrate that group together. Again, there's a variety of ways to tinker with this, and again, it depends on the people who participate and in the book. In the short time we have left, because again, I know we want to keep this brief and practical, just a couple of things, and then I do want to talk about our next book after that. Again, Facilitator's Guide, Participant Guide, the slides are all available at interlude.giamusic.com. While you're there, if you do not currently receive the Interlude email, the weekly email, please make sure you sign up through Interlude, through GIA's social media. So if you're not following GIA on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, please do that as well. We'll announce these other resources. So those are the best, most time-sensitive ways to get information about this. This is a dialogue, so please, if you don't see a book you would love for us to feature, let us know. There's a resource that would be helpful or a feature that would be helpful, let us know. If you've used this and it's been great or it's been awful, let us know. Share a picture of the group or let us know that this is happening. We would love to know this. Again, we want this to be conversational as we develop this because we want it to be helpful. I mean, that's the reason we're doing it. All of that being said, ready for the big announcement for the book? The next book we will feature, again, new participant guide with all those features, new facilitators guide, etc., will be Where God Hides, from Liam Lawton, Father Liam Lawton, an Irish composer who's a very popular composer and speaks a lot on spirituality. Sarah, you can see, has been taking lots of appropriately matched, color coordinated notes with her.
I don't like to write in the book, so I have to write my question ideas on my sticky notes. So,
and Sarah, do you want to tell us a little bit about what the just big overview? What is this book like? How is this going to differ from what people will experience with the Gift of Song?
It's a little bit similar in that it's very personal. Mm-hmm. But if you have ever heard Liam talk, or he definitely has the Irish gift of poetic speech, I guess. So he describes things perfectly, but really each chapter is some of his reflections, but then a story of someone who he knows. I mean, the subtitle here is Stories of Divine Inspiration. And so people in difficult situations or challenging things in their life, and how they kind of found God to get through it. And I really feel like right now is a perfect time to read a book like this. It's very inspirational. It's very uplifting. And, although he talks about some times that are filled with struggle and grief even, there's always a beautiful side to it that he brings out. And again, if you've ever, well, I mean, if you know Liam's writing, it is very well done and beautifully written.
And I don't know if you can all see this, and you can visit this on our website, but he organizes the chapters also based upon, that great reading from Ecclesiastes, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, again, thinking about this book as a whole, but also each of these chapters sort of episodically, a time to be born, a time to plant, a time to heal, a time to let go, a time to search, a time to speak, a time for peace, a time to embrace, etc. This is a great, again, book as a whole, but also, again, to go back as a touchstone, as a common reading, a common piece of spiritual formation. It's going to be wonderful. So this will be our November book, which means the resources will be out in the month of November. During the month of November is when we'll have our special discounted pricing on this. The resources will be available beyond then. But as you're thinking about what this might look like, how you might structure it, this would be a great book during Advent, great book to kick off the new year, a great book just before, during Lent, really a great text for any time of the liturgical year, certainly.
It's also really not music specific, although Liam is a musician, and it comes up. It really is more of a general book that really any group would be able to read and enjoy and be able to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. So that, I mean, I know that's in 44 minutes, that was a lot of information about how this works, how it might function for you, what opportunities you have, where you find things, this book, the next book, a lot of information. I want to let you know that we've been recording this presentation and we'll be sharing it on our YouTube channel and also on our Facebook page. So if there are others you would like to see or have in your community see this to get a sense of how this might work, or if you want to go back to catch one of those ideas, please let us know. Again, as I mentioned a couple of times, this is conversational. Please let us know what would be helpful for you. All of these resources are free. We are very pleased to be able to offer them to you for free. It's a way to try to help. We know that these are unusual times and we have to be as flexible and creative as possible. And we're really glad to partner with you, to read with you shoulder to shoulder in this book club. We also hope to add other features. Maybe one of the authors of one of our future books might join us on a webinar for facilitators to talk about his book. I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud here. Wouldn't it be something to be able to be a facilitator and have a little training with the author of the book? Let's say, I don't know, a composer. So we're hopeful to offer some of those opportunities going into the future too. And then finally, please tell your friends, tell your community members, those in your parish about this if you think it would be useful. And a big thank you to all of you joining us live, all of you who are watching this rebroadcast, for all of the Herculean efforts that you are doing right now to think outside the box, to do new things, to reach people in your community, to continue to add formation and opportunities to gather and be together and be church. We see the things you're doing and we know they work, and we know you're working so hard, and we know it can feel like an uphill battle sometimes, but it's working and it's making a difference. And if there's anything we can do to help you in that work, please be sure to reach out and to let us know. So from everyone at GIA, thank you. Thank you for that. Sarah, any final thoughts before we sign off and start the weekend early?
Happy reading.
Happy reading. Everyone, go ahead and take the rest of the day off. And we'll see you again on another GIA webinar soon. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.